You don't feel like yourself anymore. It's not something you can clearly explain. Nothing dramatic happened. Nothing suddenly broke. But something changed. And you can feel it. In small moments. In the way you react. In the way you think. In the way you move through your day. Things that once felt natural now feel forced. Things that once excited you don't hit the same. You still do what you're supposed to do. You show up. You function. You keep going. But inside, it feels different. Like you're slightly disconnected from your own life. Like you're there, but not fully present. And that thought keeps coming back. What happened to me? This feeling doesn't come out of nowhere. It builds slowly. So slowly that you don't even notice it at first. It starts with small shifts. You get a little more tired. A little less interested. A little more quiet. You ignore it. You tell yourself it's just a phase. But then the phase doesn't pass. It stays. And over time, those small shifts turn into something bigger. You don't laugh the same. You don't feel the same. You don't respond the same. You begin to feel unfamiliar to yourself. One reason this happens is because you've been in survival mode for too long. Not necessarily in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, constant way. Handling things. Managing stress. Dealing with responsibilities. Always thinking about what's next. Always preparing. Always adjusting. And when your mind is focused on survival, it doesn't prioritize feeling like yourself. It prioritizes getting through the day. So you adapt. You become efficient, practical, controlled. But in that process, you start losing touch with the parts of you that felt alive. The spontaneous parts. The curious parts. The emotional parts. They don't disappear. They just get pushed aside. And the longer they stay hidden, the more distant you feel from yourself. Another reason is, you've been suppressing more than you realize. Not just big emotions, but small ones too. Frustration you didn't express. Conversations you avoided. Feelings you brushed off. Each time you do that, your mind stores it. It doesn't resolve it. It just carries it. And over time, that weight builds up. Quietly. Internally. Until you start feeling heavy. Without knowing why. And when your emotional system is overloaded, you disconnect. Not because you want to, but because your brain is trying to protect you. It reduces how much you feel, so you don't get overwhelmed. But that comes with a cost. Because when you numb difficult emotions, you also numb positive ones. Joy feels dull. Excitement feels distant. Motivation feels low. And suddenly, you don't feel like yourself anymore. There's also the pressure. The constant pressure to be something. To be productive. To be better. To keep up. You're always thinking about improvement. What you should be doing. Where you should be going. Who you should be becoming. And without realizing it, you stop being who you are. You start performing. Living based on expectations. Not expression. And the more you do that, the more disconnected you feel. Because you're no longer acting naturally. You're acting intentionally. Carefully. Filtered. Then there's the change. You've grown. Even if it doesn't feel like it. You're not the same person you were before. Your perspective shifted. Like you don't belong in your own life. Your tolerance changed. But it's not because something is wrong. But your environment. It's because something has changed. Your life. And you haven't adjusted to it yet. And that creates questioning everything. Because who you are now. Why don't I feel like myself? Doesn't fully fit. Did I lose who I was anymore? Will I ever feel normal feels like discomfort. But maybe the question is something is off. Why did I lose myself? Maybe it's, which version of me am I trying to go back to? Because the version you miss might not exist anymore. And that's not a bad thing. It just means you've outgrown it. The problem is, we expect ourselves to feel consistent, to always be the same, to always recognize who we are. But identity doesn't work like that. It evolves. It shifts. It changes over time. And sometimes, those changes happen faster inside than they do outside. So you end up in this in-between space, where you're no longer who you used to be, but you're not fully who you're becoming either. And that space feels unfamiliar, uncertain, disorienting. It feels like you've lost yourself. But in reality, you're just not defined yet. So what do you do in this phase? You don't rush to fix yourself. You don't force yourself to go back to how you used to feel, because that version of you belonged to a different time. Instead, you get curious. You start exploring who you are now. Not who you were. Not who you think you should be, but who you are in this moment. Start small. Pay attention to what feels real. What feels natural. What feels even slightly interesting. Not exciting. Not perfect. Just genuine. Because when you're disconnected, you don't jump back into full clarity. You rebuild it. Piece by piece. Create space. Moments where you're not distracted. No phone. No noise. Just you. It might feel uncomfortable at first. because you're not used to it. But that's where reconnection starts. Not in constant stimulation, but in stillness. Then start expressing again. Not for others, but for yourself. Say what you actually feel. Write what's on your mind. Do something without overthinking it. Even if it feels small. Even if it feels pointless. Because expression reconnects you to yourself. Also, be careful with how you talk to yourself. When you feel off, it's easy to say, I'm not the same. I've changed too much. I don't recognize myself. But instead of judging it, try to understand it. Because change is not loss. It's movement. It's growth. Even when it feels uncomfortable. And most importantly, give yourself time. You didn't disconnect overnight. You won't reconnect instantly. It's a process. A quiet one. A slow one. But a real one. So maybe you haven't lost yourself. Maybe you've just moved away from who you used to be. And you haven't fully met who you are now. And that space in between, even though it feels confusing, is where something new is forming. A version of you that's more aware, more honest, more aligned. So the next time you feel like this, don't panic. Don't assume something is wrong with you. Pause and ask yourself, am I really lost? Or am I just changing? Because sometimes, not feeling like yourself anymore is not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're becoming someone new. And maybe this version of you just needs a little time to feel like home again.